Yo, and welcome back to Let's Go Podcast.
Yes. Number 22. And at this point, I think we're going to stop counting. And yet.
Yeah, I feel like we've hit the goal. Now, I think at 1 year, I thought about this today.
Yeah.
I was getting out of the shower. I was like, when we make it to a year, which seems so far away, but really, this has been very easy.
Well, so I was actually talking about that with a client. So, I work with a lot of business owners, and then I also work with people with ADHD. And one of the things that we were talking about is how do you put things in your life? You've got to put things in your life that if it's simple, you aren't going to do it. Mm-hmm. And so when we first started talking about this, and I think this is just for anybody out there that's thinking about starting things, a lot of times we tend to start all or nothing, mm-hmm. and then so we don't do anything. And
well, that's a me thing. In fact, to tell you what, if you wouldn't have started showing up at my house at 9:30, like, hey, I'm here for the podcast, I probably would not have committed to it.
So that's the same. So again, I was talking to somebody specifically about ADHD, and yet this works for everybody, and especially if you have ADHD. So number one, doing something with somebody because you'll show up better for other people than you will yourself.
Workout partner.
That's right. And then also putting it at a time that makes sense. And that it's simpler or easier to do it at that time. So when you first suggested Saturdays, my first thought was like, oh, do I really?
But you're not going to get me Monday through Friday.
Well, that's not consistently. That becomes very challenging, mm-hmm. and then it becomes complex. The other thing that I think went really well is whenever at first, because again, ADHD, I tend to think all or nothing. Mm-hmm. So when we first started talking about this, my brain goes to, okay, we've got to get together. We've got to make the plan. We've got to da-da-da. And you did something very smart. And you said, look, we're just going to be casual. We're just going to come and we're going to talk. And then we'll let it evolve. And so like you said, if I wasn't just showing up, that would have been a challenge for you to make it consistent. If we would have started it the way that my brain works with doing it perfect, mm-hmm. we would have never, it would have been too complex to continue. And so I would just show that to, say that for anybody that's out there, whether it's a podcast or anything else, know that there's 50,000 steps to do things. And yet, can we start, what's the first step? What's the simple step? And for us, it was, Saturday at
Show
this
up,
time.
start running your mouth.
Start running your mouth. That's right. and then just see where it goes. And then you start making adjustments and doing different things. And yet that's been, so for everybody out there, just start. Now, so this is the thing. So we're doing this once a week. There's only 52 weeks a year. Mm-hmm. We're at week 22.
We're halfway there.
So we're halfway to a year.
We're halfway there.
And we are at 206 subscribers. So
to my hand will make it, I swear.
And we're for anybody that's subscribed, thank you guys so much. And if you are listening and you haven't subscribed, please do so. It definitely helps the channel, and so we appreciate you guys. So
so first of all, we're going for sponsors this week.
Gatorade and Propel.
Jesus Chicken. It goes great with Jesus Juice. Dude, the new sugar-free Red Bull. Have you had this thing?
I don't drink any energy drink. I think they're all trash.
Okay, well, this one's...
I don't drink coffee either.
This is amazing. So I only drink sugar-free stuff. So weird thing. So actually, sugar gives me headaches, really, really bad headaches. So I do not drink anything with sugar in it unless it's alcohol. Sorry. So I drink coffee, water, energy drinks, and whiskey.
Yeah.
But
so you drink your coffee plain?
Yes, I do.
I drink my tea that way.
Yeah.
Hot. If I drink hot tea, I usually don't put sugar in it or anything.
I will drink a latte, but there was a period of my life where I got a latte and a bagel every single morning for probably a year. And I also, and I'm not saying it's that food group and that thing, but I also was gaining weight consistently. Now, also was pretty.
Oh yeah, it's typically not one thing, right? It's all of the above.
Yeah, but then you upgrade your lifestyle. You want to upgrade your entire lifestyle, right? So I started eating better, drinking less.
Start in one spot and then it starts.
Yeah, very proud of my drinking. I'm drinking probably 25 to 35% of what I was drinking a year ago. So I'm happy about that. But anyway, this new strawberry apricot sugar-free Red Bull, Jake turned me on to it. This thing is straight fire. I love it.
Yes.
And then, of course, we'll go with any Gatorade product. Propel. I love it.
See, and I drink Gatorade, the red.
You got sugar, though.
It does have sugar.
A lot of sugar.
I have tried the zero. The other day, matter of fact, I bought like the zero sugar one. Yeah, that's trash. I would rather drink water or nothing than drink that, which I do like water. So
I have 6 bottles a day at least.
Well, what's interesting too with water, I would drink water, period, any kind, but Ozarka is my favorite. Like I'll drink Zasadi or some of those, but
I'm not a water snob.
I'm a bit of a water snob.
I will drink your Swartz tap water out of the water hose.
Yeah.
I will also drink your Smart Water that I think you're an idiot for buying because it's too expensive. That's just me.
Yeah. I am a bit of a water. I think to me, water has a taste, and like West Monroe water, or not just West Monroe water but any like that comes out of the sink. For the most part, to me, it just tastes weird.
They're just treating the mess out of it, and it's coming through old pipes. I would not want to stick a scope down.
No, especially in West Monroe, which this is probably everywhere, but we always get these notifications. Don't drink the water, and I'm like, and then you get another notification.
Which idiot was drinking it anyways?
Well, then you get this notification like it's okay to drink the water. We're bathing in it. I'm going, probably not great. But then I was looking at my water bill, and it cracks me up because I just pay it online, so I never look at it, and I'm not even sure. Maybe it was my mom's. I don't even know why I had a paper copy of it. And there's a $1.65 charge for clean water. I think that's kind of an expectation. Why am I having to pay?
We're not a third world country. Like, what?
Yeah, like that should be like.
I've never looked at my water bill.
Yeah,
I just know it's $90-something a month.
Yeah, that should not be charging me for like to make sure it's clean. Like that's why I'm paying.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll just dig it out of the backyard.
I got a hole in my backyard. Like I can just go scoop water out of that.
I thought that was interesting. So.
Yeah, no, that's funny. So fun story. Y'all don't judge me out there. I was watching some of our the clips and reels and stuff, and I'm not sure if I have a speech impediment or maybe like I have had some sinus infections lately, so maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know, but it sounded like I was slurring my words. Now, guys, I want to tell y'all, yes, I'm a drinker. Everybody knows that, but I'll have like 2 White Claws here that I'll drink in a period of 2 hours. I don't feel it or anything, but but it sounded like some of my words were rubbing together. And so I have decided that we're going to non-alcoholic beverages for this podcast, just in case. I'm going to give it a few weeks and see if it sounds any different.
So, so you mentioned this the other day. I haven't went back and listened to any of them, but I've not heard any slurring. So I'm curious for you guys that do watch the podcast, and especially if you know Harrison in like real life, and then you listen to him on the podcast. Have you noticed any slurring, or is that just the way he sounds and he just now heard himself say that? So maybe it's just we're practicing articulation.
Maybe, and my mouth moves faster than my brain does sometimes, especially mine. So maybe that's it. I don't know, but we record this podcast at 10 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah. So it's not
so if I'm slurring, whether you guys do that or not, that's embarrassing to me. But yeah, no. So I'm going to be not drinking for a few weeks on the podcast
to see if we notice a difference in your language. Yeah,
correct. But
or your articulation of the language.
I am, and I want to talk to you about this. So I'm going to do a new concept for a podcast. I think I want to do 2 a week now that my schedule is changing. And so I still want to talk business. It's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be a lot more edgy, a lot less professional, but still gonna be talking about business and stuff like that. And I think it's gonna be an interview based podcast. So I'm always going to have someone new on.
Yeah.
And so at first I was gonna call it Whiskey Conversations with Harrison. So I was gonna do the set over there, do a neon light that said Whiskey Conversations, and then make them whatever drink they wanted, but I'd be sipping on a whiskey of the week, whatever, and probably have that sponsored by like Beef and Barrel because those are my dudes. And Lauren Creekmore and her creative bougie self.
She is very creative. Yeah.
She came up with a great idea. She called me. She goes, since you didn't call on me in not in the podcast. We have a Zoom call every day. And she goes, since you forgot about me, I didn't want to give you my idea. And I was like, what idea? What happened? And she goes, it's not called Whiskey Conversations. It's called Whiskey Business. And I was like,
that's so cool.
Oh, I like that. So,
yeah,
that's going to be the name of it, I think. Yeah. So I'm going to get like a neon that hangs up right there. And I think I'm going to get like a smoke machine.
Yeah.
Get those chairs. So it's going to be more of a interview style, like relaxed thing. But yeah, no, I think we're going to give that a run.
I like that idea. And it's funny that you were talking about that. So I'm actually toying with some other podcast ideas as well. So we did a couple of weeks ago, you guys got to meet Kelsey, and Kelsey has a son that's autistic, and I work with a lot of people with ADHD, and so we're going to have a podcast where we delve into that, how that impacts life and things to that effect. And then Justin Glenn, of all people, he and I have been talking, and
oh God, y'all's podcast. I will actually. So that would be an entertainment podcast.
Yes, it would be an entertainment podcast.
I would probably listen to that.
And
one.
he is so. We've played around, and he was talking about maybe smoking in it. I don't smoke. And
like
say that
cigarettes.
No.
Oh, he's not in this house.
No. Well,
he can vape. I'm good with that.
We were just playing with things. But it was, but yeah. So because like we'll exchange like memes and things, and he cracks me up with some of these things because he's very.
But
like,
how many of his are appropriate?
Oh well, that's where I'm like. Because it's funny because as much, like, I'm not somebody that I would consider necessarily, like, PC correct and all that. I am.
But you're pretty square.
I'm pretty square, yeah. And when I'm very intentional, I like to think that I'm very intentional with my words and how they impact people. And so there are certain things that I would not do because that's not a reflection of me and things to that effect. And yet there are certain things that we talked about it was hilarious. So we're going to play around with some of those different ideas. And we'll just see what comes out, what sticks, what doesn't. And yeah, so.
Yeah. I'm just sitting there thinking about you saying like, you like to think about your words and how they affect people. And I'm like,
I didn't say how they land with people.
Oh yeah, you struggle with that for sure. But at least you think about it. I think about it after.
Yeah.
I say or do it. Like there were 3 times this week where I just said what I felt like I needed to say, and I was like, oh, maybe shouldn't have said it, but it's done now, so whatever.
Well, there is a so interesting enough, like with ADHD, and we talked about this. So there's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Mm-hmm. One of the things that it talks about is, that we have between stimulus and response. Mm-hmm. So something happens and then how we respond, there's a piece right in between, maybe just a half a second, but that gives us an opportunity to choose the response. Well, interesting enough, people with ADHD, that's actually where we struggle. Oh. So that's why
it's part of my disorder.
That's right.
I'm excused.
No. It's weird.
Can we send a doctor's excuse to the Board of Realtors?
No.
Okay.
And so anyways, it's that piece right there is where part of our challenge comes up. So there's lots of times I will say things, and later, or usually for me, it's maybe I don't pick up on something in that second, and then I'll be having this conversation. They think we're having this or whatever, and there's this mismatch. But no, what I mean by being like, I don't, we were talking about this in we have a family group chat. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes
I hate those.
Oh, well, no, we have an amazing, like that's the only group chat that I have like been a part of before I started with y'all that I did not want out of. Like I really, for the most part, enjoy it. Yeah. No, for the most part, it's really good. But we, sometimes it's just like, hey, this is what's going on, or we'll say something funny but so it's not like, it is all the time, but I really do enjoy it. With that said, a lot of times, I've got 6 brothers. They grew up, they're, construction workers. Now they're not necessarily anymore, though a few of them still are. There's a 14-year range between my oldest brother and me. So we experienced life different. And sometimes they'll pick on me because they'll say something and I'm like, yeah, I'm not taking part of that conversation, or, we say it a little differently than that. And so that's what I mean by where, like, I'm like, if I'm going to talk about somebody, I have absolutely said that to that person's face, and they know like that conversation is happening. Yeah. So that's what I mean by like when I'm really intentional. So like if, so that's what I mean. Like, so if we're going to tell a joke, if the person that we're telling the joke about are the people, if we wouldn't tell it while they were in the room, then let's not say it. Then we're not going to say it.
Oh yeah, no. The things that I said it directly to the person.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a coward.
Yeah. And so so that's a whole side note. But so it's going to be interesting because I also have a bit of a offbeat sense of humor, I think, sometimes.
See?
And I don't know that I appreciate how fast you said yes to that.
Well, so you have some, you have social oddities.
Yeah, probably.
Olivia is a great one-on-one. Do you feel anything inside you change when you get in group settings?
So, interesting enough, so with group settings, I like group settings if I'm like leading a class, or if I'm comfortable and I've been there before. But like, if you're just going to like invite me over and there's like this big party, I'm either probably not going to come.
Hey, I'm not showing up.
Yeah. Or if I do show up, you're probably going to think that I'm shy or and even like, that's one of the reasons, like, I love to have people to my house because then I'm doing things and I have a purpose. You're hosting. Cause
I've noticed the few times I've been to your house for like a family event or something like that. Like, you are very active and working on things and serving and hosting. Yeah. And I think, you know what? That's really funny. I do the same thing. Yeah. That's why I always tell people, you just come to my house. Yeah. I can control the situation.
I'm in an environment that I feel comfortable at.
That's right. I can't offend your household rules.
Yeah. Because there's so that we talk about like between ADHD and maybe a little autism or whatever, but like there are.
Risen with autism.
Autism. Yeah. I always feel like, and this is my entire life, like I've always felt like, so like intellectually, I've always been at or above like my, growing up at school, like I'm pretty smart.
Oh yeah, no, I would say you're above average for sure. Yeah.
But emotionally and not like maybe socially, like I always feel like I'm a little bit like I don't know what the right etiquette is. And so
you and Matt Castleberry have similar diseases.
Yeah. Except he says it and I just, I'm going to like, I want, if something like, if I'm going somewhere that I've never been before, I'm researching it. I'm talking to somebody because I don't like I don't like not knowing what's expected of me.
Yeah, that's fair. I just get social anxiety. You would think that I'd go to these real estate conferences or whatever and be like, "Oh, I'm Harrison," no, I sit in the back and shut my mouth, homie. That's what I do.
In class, I've got to, you've never noticed this, I'm sure, but the way that when I learn, it's very hard for me not to, when I have a thought, for it to come out, especially when I'm learning.
No, I would never know that as you interrupt me every 30 seconds, every time I speak.
That's right. So so imagine how often I want to do it.
Oh my God. So I'm just going to hand you the mic next time. Here you go.
Well, in like classes where I'm not the teacher, and it has nothing to do with, I know more, but no, that's how I process it and I get excited
I want to participate. I learn by participating.
That's right.
I don't like teaching or coaching really, but you taught me a long time ago, like, Harrison, the quickest way to mastery is to go and coach and teach. And because you're going to start talking about the process and realize like, I don't know what happens next. Well, this is embarrassing. I can never let this happen again because there's a consequence to not knowing. And then you're like, well, the next time I get up there, I will know everything. And so you go and you study and you learn and then you regurgitate and you're learning through other people's problems.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons I like to teach in very small settings. Don't invite me to your 1,000-person event. I don't want to be there.
Oh, and I'm good.
I'd black out on stage. Oh, no. Guaranteed.
You give me 100, you give me 1,000. Shoot, I'm awesome. The challenge that I have is the beginning or in between when people want to chat with me, and I will talk with you. And so I'm always worried, though, in my mind is, they came to talk to me. They're looking for some wisdom, or they're looking for, and they're getting me. So they're going, well, that's odd. Or does she really want to talk to me? And I'm like, I do, but my brain is all worried about how you're taking or what I'm saying, and so I can't really be present with you sometimes. It just
I'm hyper aware of everything going on inside my body. Like I can hear my brain making noises. I got asked to speak at ULM to some students, like graduate age, on my entrepreneurial journey, investing journey, things like that. And so I spoke for probably 10, 12 minutes tops. I could see about this much out of my eyeballs. Like I did not have peripheral vision. I was completely zoned in, seeing spots. My breathing was drastically increased. I think I skipped half my story because I blanked in the middle of it. Like, blood pressure is going through the roof. Like, I do not enjoy it. But give me 20 to 30 people, and we're coaching on a very specific topic that I'm aware of, and that we can have an open Q&A. I feel like I thrive in that, but I do not. It's funny. We'll go to these conferences and stuff, and Amanda or Sam or Chris will be like, Harrison, it's like, this is the same you teach. Like, we could just listen to you. I was like, yeah, but y'all don't listen to me. So we have to come here and pay thousands of dollars so that you'll listen to somebody else who does less at a lower level than I do, whatever. And they're like, no, you need to be signing up to be up there. Like, you need to send Tom an email and let him know, like, hey, like, who we are and what we're doing and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, y'all missed one key point. I would die up there.
Yeah.
Cardiac arrest.
Well, so we are going to start doing that, and we can maybe tag team so that you can.
Now with 20 or 30 people.
Well, so with the interesting thing, so again, so you mentioned again, I love to do things that I'm not comfortable with. Like, I put myself in situations that I'm not comfortable with so that I can experience and know what's expected the next time, etc. But you mentioned about blanking out. I remember in high school, I used to, like my freshman year, we used to travel and do like acting things. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty good. And like, we got this big trophy. Now, with that said, one of the reasons I was pretty good is because the gentleman, it was more he was really good. So the gentleman that I was doing with, I can't even remember his name now, but he was from Brazil and he was a foreign exchange student. Mm-hmm. And so we sounded almost like, which I don't even know that they're not my type of humor, but Lucy and I Love Lucy, her husband, right? He had that Ricky. Yeah. But that accent.
Yeah, but hold on. It's more like this though. Ricky.
Yeah. So anyway, so we did that. And then my senior year, I got invited to a friend of mine, she was like, hey, I'm going to go to the Strauss and the little theater we have, and I'm going to audition for this play. And I'm like, oh, I totally want to go do that with you. So we get there. Nobody had told me that it was a singing.
Oh.
Yeah. So
did you go through with it?
Oh, yeah. Now, this is the interesting thing. Not you don't want to hear me sing.
Y'all just heard her try to hit a note.
That's right. There's none. Then, what's that? I couldn't hit a note if it was in a bucket. Yeah. So I don't know how, and I haven't prepared anything because I had prepared like a monologue thing for a play. So what song can I think of? I'm a Little Teapot. Wait, this is bad enough, but they're very encouraging. So I get there, I'm on the stage by myself. You've got like the people, the judges going to decide where you go in. And so I sing, I'm a little teapot. I'm a little teapot, do the whole thing. And then that part where he tipped me, I realized that I didn't have anal or spout because I completely missed that whole part of the song because I was so nervous. Do you think that would have
made a difference in your placement?
So then,
I can't believe you did that.
I had to go, and then I was like, yeah. And so, yeah, so you talk about like completely miss an entire part of what you were going to say. Like,
yeah, you missed the whole handle and the spout.
Oh, yeah.
God, you're such a
teapot. Yeah. So I was part of the village people. Yeah. Or, like the people that the extras. The extras.
They were just happy to have you.
Yeah.
Like, for real, they probably were.
It was a really
She's
great
going to be
experience.
a teapot. She'll definitely be a construction worker.
Anyway, and it was like Scrooge McDuck, I think. So I was just one of the village people, right? And so like if I sang, it was always in a chorus or whatever. And I just, mimicked. I didn't.
Were you the person that were like, hey, just lip sync?
That's right. Like, no. Well, we don't need to hear that.
Yeah.
It was a great experience. But so like that's where I have to put myself out of my comfort zone because that's when I realized, I won't do XYZ, so I need to prepare better and things like that. So it's very random.
Okay, teapot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let me see. So we talked about that.
You had mentioned today that one of the things that you wanted to cover was...
Oh, yeah. I was trying to make sure we didn't have anything else besides that. I was ready for that.
Okay. The only other thing that I have is we had picked about the dog situation.
Oh, yeah. I want another dog, but I don't have a backyard right now, and I don't know when I'm getting a backyard back.
Because dug up.
Right? Yeah, I'm getting a pool in the house that I'm selling.
Yeah, you need
to
put that sign out.
I really do. Just need to pull the signs up. We get leads on it, though.
Yeah.
You know what a really smart play is? have everyone in your organization, let's say you're out of leads. No, I think the board of realtors might say something about this ethically.
Well, no, if you're willing to sell it,
I mean, at some price.
At a price,
Yeah,
you
but
would
no,
sell
but
it.
you get everyone in your organization to list their houses for very attractive prices in hopes of a bidding war to get the price that you're looking for. That makes it ethical. Watch the leads come in. Seriously.
If it's a cool enough property, yeah, you have a very cool property.
If we were struggling, like if the brokerage was struggling, I would quite literally list everyone's house on the team at like 15-20% off prices, and just watch our lead flow just go through the roof and be like, that seller is actually a jerk. I work with him and he said he's not selling anymore. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. I think, the biggest thing is like, if they would legit sell at a certain price, then it's ethical.
Well, would you not sell at a certain price?
Yeah. That's like, I had somebody, the people that bought, they have actually
Offered you $300 cash for your house right now. Would you pack up and leave tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, like there was the people behind me, when they bought that, which they've now sold, but they were thinking about my house for their daughter or something, and it wasn't on the market. They had their agent approach me. I was like, yeah, I'm look at it. I said, probably what they want to pay for it and what I like, it's not going to match, but absolutely, if they would have come back at a price that would have made sense for me, I sold in a heartbeat. Because the only reason, like we've had this conversation, the only reason I live where I live is because I could buy the property next door for mama. I don't not really like my house. And not really, like it's
my
not.
My sister almost bought your house when it was on the market. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've done a lot of stuff to it. I still don't like it, but yeah, so I absolutely, would I sell it? 100%.
Yeah, same. You come here with the right amount of money, I'll sell my house, sell any house. So.
Yeah. So, so the dog situation. So, I have, well, let me back up. If we would have had this conversation on Wednesday, I would have said I had 3 standard poodles. They're freaking awesome. A Jack Russell and a, she's some type of collie mix, but the Jack Russell and Izzy, they're smaller. On Wednesday or Thursday morning, I can't remember which, a lady approached me and said, I've kept her dog for her before. And I kept saying, like, one of the reasons I keep other people's dogs is because it gives me what I need so that I don't go get another dog.
Yeah, you don't need any more pets.
And,
but here we sit.
Yes. And so I was like, and so she asked me, and this dog's name is Bonnie, and she's beautiful and she's awesome. And I was like, yeah. So now I have Bonnie. And she's doing great. She loves playing with the other dogs. And so that puts me at 6 dogs. 4 standard poodles. My house is like 2019, a little bit less than 2000.
Yeah, but what's the downstairs where the dogs reside?
Right. Well, so now that Mama has moved in with me, where she's going to be the bottom stairs, I've decided that I'm going to move upstairs because then, like, I have the whole, like, you
Isn't
basically...
it carpet upstairs, though?
No. I've pulled all the carpet out.
Oh, okay.
Actually, the carpet was pulled out, but no, we've laid regular flooring up there.
Okay, gotcha.
So, but it's got a full bath, a big loft, and a big master.
So the dogs are in the upstairs now.
Yeah. Well, that's where, if I do this next thing, because actually the only reason I moved downstairs is because, again, a lot of the decisions in my life are made on my dogs. Because so Domino, he got too old to traverse the stairs. And so I had to move downstairs because Domino. And so this morning I got a text from somebody else that I know, and they have a beautiful golden doodle, jet black, super cool, gets along with my dogs, and they're looking to rehome. And they asked me, and I was like, the initial answer, if I didn't get Miss Bonnie on Thursday, would have been absolutely. And now I'm going, 7 seems like a lot, especially when they're all large dogs. How can I say no to another? Because then I would have 2 black, 2 brown, and a white. I just really need a gray one.
It's very diverse of you. But so I want a dog, but I do not have a backyard right now.
That was my first thought. I was like, if he got...
Yeah, because I'd already committed to, we have a past client who has a golden doodle, I went and let him and Bruno have a play date and hang out, and they got along, and he was a nice dog and all that. And I'd committed to it, but then she's like, hey, I need him gone like now. I don't like, she has him as an outside dog, and she agrees. Like, she's like, I just don't think it's very fair to him. And so I was like, look, I can't, like, I have a dirt pit. I don't have a yard, and I like Bruno, I could just take out my front yard with no leash.
Right.
It's easy. And I just don't have time for a hard animal right now. So anyway, I had to pass on that, unfortunately. But maybe
Sophie.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and the interesting. So with all that to say, the funny thing about that is, so for years we used to give my mom. Again, that's where I get my ADHD from, and a lot of my other. She's so much nicer and sweeter than me. But that's where I get, like, she collects chickens, and like right now she's down to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever she moved in, when I moved her near me, we had a conversation. I bought it because we're not zoned in the city, but we're very close to the city.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't have any zoning against it. And I'm talking to her, and I'm thinking we're going to have, like, she's going to bring like 10, 15 chickens.
How many was it?
At a certain point, I stopped counting because I feel like there was 1,000. There was probably like closer to 100.
There were 100 chickens back there?
And again, do I know that for a fact? No, but there were so freaking many chickens.
That's a lot of chickens.
No, there was probably, there's probably 50 or 60 chickens.
Yeah, still a lot of chickens.
Lots of chickens. And
so how did she, like, decide which 6 she was going to keep?
Well,
we had like a game show? Or?
That's right. No, she had gotten sick. And so whenever she was so sick, and so my brother and I were having to go and feed, and she felt like it's something that she enjoys doing, and she kind of felt bad. She wasn't sure how long she was going to be sick. And so she'd reached out to Kevin Patrick, and they do chickens as well. Mm-hmm. And so she had identified some that, like, she wanted to keep, but
was it based on personality? Or?
Well, funny enough, she was going to give up more, and my brother was a little bit concerned because he was like, she's probably just doing it out of, like, I don't want, because Mama doesn't ever want to bother anybody. Correct, or be,
Yeah.
And so she had identified like 2 or 3, and but Melvin was like, no, we're going to keep more. Well, then I think some of them. So I think probably we had like 12, and then the animals or something got in the pens, and so now she's down to the 6. It will not stay that way, I'm sure. Yeah. And so, but that's so I'm like, she collects the chickens, and
yeah. I just thought about this. You can gauge Miss Ann's health based on the amount of chickens that are in your backyard.
1,000%.
So if she's kicking, you got a lot of chicken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually very, very true.
Yeah, see, and that's pretty funny. It's like a video game health bar.
That's right.
Yeah, her superpower is the chicken collector.
Well, that's how, like, so it's funny. Like, so my brother, Avery, he said that's how he could always tell my mental health is how crazy my hair was, what color it was, or like if I was working out or not. And I thought, like, what? And I was
so
like,
your hair is not colored, and you're not working out right now. What does that say?
But I just cut it.
Oh yeah, speaking of, 2 weeks ago,
probably going to go a lot shorter.
You working
I think now
out.
It's dogs. So I did a really good job until this week. I've been sick all week.
So you're not allowed to talk about running this whole podcast.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
No, and but like I worked and slept all week. Matter of fact, I'm gonna schedule an appointment with the doctor. I couldn't figure out. I was like, I must just have, like, it felt weird, but it wasn't like sick where you're not. But for the last 2 days, I've had like vertigo, like and I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. And I've had vertigo one time where, like, I walked downstairs one time, and it was crazy because, again, I was upstairs, so I walked downstairs, but my stairs are kind of narrow. So I was like, oh, I'm just asleep, sleepy. I walked in my living room, and I couldn't walk straight, and I ended up and I was convinced I was dying. I was like, what is this? So I had my brother drive me to the doctor. There was something with my ears. We're fine, Well, for the last 2 days, like, I'll feel fine. Mm-hmm. And then I'll, like yesterday, I was doing some painting in Mama's bedroom or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I need to stop and sit down. Everything feels, like not vertigo, like I can walk straight, but everything feels like it's not. It's very weird.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know if like I don't know if this has anything to do with being sick last week and like this is a portion of it, but it's going to be very interesting. And also, you know, if this is an ear thing or an eye thing, it's going to be very interesting. No idea. It's like very random.
Sounds psychological.
Well, it could be. Like I'm telling you, like, this is the craziest thing is the older I get, I'm like, number one, do I just pay attention to stuff? Because when you were young, and especially when you're young, you just was like, oh,
no, your body
do it. Or if I'm just like,
your body starts to, things change about your body. So fun story, or not fun at all, actually. So used to, could stomach anything, could eat anything, drink anything, had no, like I didn't get sick.
No.
Nothing made me nauseous. I could watch the most vile of things and be like, whatever, doesn't bother me at all. I cannot emotionally watch someone get beat up anymore. Like I can't, like if I see somebody fighting, like not like a UFC fight where it's a sport, that doesn't bother me at all. Like their head could fall off and be like, it's sport.
Yeah.
But like watching someone, like I was scrolling through Facebook the other day and I watched like 3 dudes ganged up. Like, and this is not stuff I watch, by the way. It's just something random that popped up. There's like 3 dudes jumped a dude at the concert and they're beating the mess out of him. Like literally got mad and upset and emotional and sick to my stomach. If I see a kid getting abused or picked on or bullied, we'll start crying.
Oh, yeah.
I'm super sensitive to that.
Like I can't even watch. Growing up, I used to love like Law and Order SVU. I can't watch it now. Like it does. I'm just like I don't even want. Yeah, it's very funny how things change.
Yeah, I can't watch. So like I'm gonna say racist TV shows, but it's TV shows or movies where someone is being oppressed strictly because of their race, color, creed.
Yeah.
And they're like just getting on for no reason. Yeah. I literally get fighting mad. I get so upset over it.
That, and then I get secondhand embarrassment really fast. Like I didn't know this was a thing, but like if I'm watching TV and somebody is like, something embarrassing is about to happen to them, I literally have to change the channel. My whole body shifts. Like I feel it everywhere and I cannot physically handle secondhand embarrassment.
Yeah. And then here's
like
something.
You would think that it's crazy.
Like you were them in the show, like projecting their feelings onto yourself.
And I'm just like, no, I can't.
Here's a really weird thing that applies to like my everyday life. So as a realtor and investor, I go in some nasty houses. Like I get fleas about once every, it's not every week anymore, but I'd say at least once a month I'm in a house and I get fleas and I have to go strip down before I even get in my car and put them in a baggie, put them in the trunk, and then, douse them when I get home. But bad, like where their animals have been locked up in the rooms, and so it's just feces and urine and mold.
Like the house or whatever. Yeah,
I start to get just start to go and just have to walk out and go get air. Used to just sit there in the middle of it and just be like, it smells like ass in here. Like it is what it is. Now I can't handle it. So weird. And then your body breaks down. Like my hips hurt. Why would a guy's hips hurt?
Yeah, it doesn't,
it doesn't make any sense. I did squats this last week with my trainer, and it's not my quads or my ass that hurts. It's my hips.
Yeah. Well, no. So like, again, I do think that there's something like maybe, and when I say like weird, like I know like if I've gotten kidney stones in the past, and some people get like they hurt, it passes stone, they're good. No, like I get. Like you would, like I the whole gamut of feeling bad, fever, the whole bit.
Yeah.
And, but like, so like this week, and this isn't just this week, but the older I get, like I have a very comfortable bed, bought it specifically for that. And usually it's very comfortable. But some days I'll wake up and I'm like, my bones hurt, or like that the back hurts, and it's not like in like backache areas. It's just, but yeah, like it is very funny. Like I used to, people would say, after 40, which you haven't even got there. I was in the best shape of my life at 38 and 39. Life. I'm telling you, best shape of my life, 38, 39.
Yeah.
Everybody's like 40, and I'm like, 40. Yeah, 40. My stuff, like it's falling apart. I'm going like, what? It is crazy the stuff that I'll be like.
Yeah.
Now I understand like what I used to think old people. I was like, that's stupid. But then
I also think about the amount that I've put my body and my mind through.
Yeah.
I'm 35. But if I were to write down everything that I've experienced and done in my life, I don't think anybody would guess 35.
Yeah.
I think they would guess 50, 60, 70 years old.
Yeah.
I have experienced a very full life at a young age. Like the highest of highs, I've been broke AF. I've had a lot of money in my checking account.
Oh yeah, look.
Right? Like I've been in love.
Yeah.
I've been at war. Like I've been in more fights than anybody should be in.
Oh, that's the funny thing too. Like, so
Yeah.
I still have a temper, but for the most part, most people don't see this. But like talk about fights. Like, again, grew up with 6 brothers, so it's probably different than a lot of girls. But like,
Oh, my sister's whooped my ass before. It's happened.
Well, but like
I was like 10. Okay.
but no, like
She was very big for her age.
but no, like I physically got into fights through junior high school. As an adult, this would have been in my 20s. Like I had physically gotten fights. Now it was never me starting it or anything, but like,
Did your mouth start it?
No. Like, so it's usually with my friends. So like this is so ridiculous. We are grown. I was the youngest one. We were playing co-ed softball and we would travel. We were really good.
Sports is a good reason to fight, though.
Yeah. Well, so somebody was picking on my friend and like, but this is the thing is she got upset because they were calling her Barbie doll. She looked like a Barbie doll, but she was badass at softball. And I'm like, oh, I wish somebody called me that. They would be ironically. So
she would be on my jersey the next week. Like, Barbie bitch.
So it's funny what bothers people. But anyway, so after the 2 girls, they're, fighting it out. Well, we were not from the park that we were playing at. And they were. And so you have to be aware of your surroundings. So the guys that we played with, it was a co-ed team, they had grabbed Denise and they're pulling her. Well, they didn't realize because they had put like their shoulder in her and they're pushing her back. They don't realize that left her face free, and that girl's just tacking her in the face.
Smoking her. Oh,
so
man.
I see this, I drop my bag and I run by and I'm like going to back the girl off. Well,
Get her, Olivia. Get her.
I was just going to back her off. And then she hit me. And then
went down.
Yeah. And so it's funny how I was like a little bit of a hothead and everything back then. And now, like, when somebody's like a fight as an adult, I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I've heard. Like, really? You're not mature enough to like talk it out or say, hey guys, and yet here I was like, so yeah, there are some things that it's funny how things change.
Yeah. I haven't been in a fight in years, but about 6 months ago, I called someone on the phone. I said, I'm about to show up at your door. And I was being dead serious. Yeah. And he was like, don't do that. Yeah. I was so mad.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I was so mad. But no, that's fun.
But yeah, it's just funny how like your world changes.
Everything changes.
Oh well, so again, I'm doing this like with 80. First off, our brains don't fully mature. We think that our brains are fully matured at 17, 18. No. Brains don't fully mature through your 20s. And it's like 25, I believe. But if you're ADHD or something to that effect, it could be up to there's usually there could be up to a 30% delay in different things. So you may not really till 30 or 35. And I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense whenever I think about the person that I was.
So how is it possible that Kevin Bells has not fully developed?
Oh, stop it.
He would laugh his ass off if he saw me say that. He'll call me and be like, well, I completely agree with you, Harrison. I feel like I have a similar disorder, so we both hate the board of realtors, so there's that.
But no, it's just funny how we are the people that we who we are or who we think we are as a young person may not be anything like who we are as a grown up.
So, all right, answer me this: would you hang out with yourself, your 25-year-old self?
I would, except for I would have annoyed me because I thought not that I don't now. I think I hopefully I
know where you're going with this.
I thought not only did I think that I knew everything, I thought that I had to tell everybody Oh no, now it's just work. Now it's just work.
Yeah, I get paid for my disposition now.
That's right. But no, it was everything. I remember, and I still we've handled it, but I remember when my sister-in-law was going through something and with her daughter, and I I was, again, in my early 20s, and I was like telling her about blah, blah, and you should do this and you should do that. And it's not even that I was wrong or she was wrong. It was the lack of any empathy on my part. Like, I hadn't took a moment and go to say like I was trying to solve the problem versus going, wow, she's going through something really hard and she needs to be able to express herself. And she offered to fight me at the airport. Offered.
The airport is not an intelligent place to fight.
Well, but I was being an ass. Like, I didn't. Now, again, if this is the interesting thing is, like, I did not, and it took me years to realize that in that situation, it wasn't her. It was me. And, yeah.
That's hard to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was years later, I think I finally did.
We always want to validate ourselves.
Yeah. Well, like, it was years later, but I did finally reach out to her and say, hey, like, this, you remember that time, you know, blah, blah, blah. I said, like, I just want you to know that I do now realize that it was me. I was an ass, you know, like it was a problem. It was me.
Sorry, sis.
Yeah. And it was, but again, just the whole pause was not happening for me. I didn't
use your pattern interrupting methodology.
No.
Yeah.
Now, some things I wish that sometimes I wish I didn't overthink things as much, because like I would just do random cool stuff because I didn't overthink, or how would this impact XYZ. I would just do it.
Yeah. And
sometimes I wish I had some of that back. But yeah, so if I were to look like, would I hang out with that person? I actually would. I think with that said, there would be a lot of conversations between me and my earlier self where I went,
yeah,
you don't have to say it just because you think it.
Yeah. No, I know I wouldn't, because the person that I believe that I am today is not who I was in my early 20s. And you talk about, I mean, everybody develops at a different time. It's really weird that there is a huge mental gap, maturity gap, perspective gap between Harrison at 25 and Harrison at 28. Massive, like, different human being in 3 years.
Yeah.
Now, I think that's also like a reason that I think that maybe people should not get married so early. So, because you don't know who you are yet.
Well, so this is the interesting thing. There's a book.
Also, don't take marriage advice from me.
That's right. But there is a book, and for the life of me, I can't think of it. I'll attempt to go back in and put it in the comments. But Gary Keller recommended it, and I read it when he has it for the young people class that he has, and like young adults. And you should get married younger. Because,
what?
Yeah.
For why?
Not when I say younger, I don't mean like, at 12, but like 18 to 25.
Why?
Because then you like grow up together and you get to know who you are. The challenge, though, is because now I'm at 42, and and I think like would I like to get married?
Dating pretty awful, isn't it?
Yeah. And same thing they're saying when they look at me. But I don't, so I do think there's something to say about growing up with that person and experiencing life, because the older we get, I think some of our filters go up. I won't go under, and I think it's the thing for everybody. Now, I will say this, like, I was in love in my 20s.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it took me forever to get over him. And now I look back and I'm going,
Thank God I didn't.
I would not hang out with him today. Like, he's not somebody I would want in my life. And
exactly, though. That's kind of my whole point.
But this is the difference. He was way older than me.
He was already there.
Yeah, well, I've always dated older. I've always dated older than me. But
so now that you're older, do you still like older?
So this is the funny
thing. You're not
thing.
old, just to clarify.
No. So this is the funny, but so the older I get, that's the other thing is age. Now, again, like, obviously I can look at somebody and be like, they're 20. That's way too young, but
like age matters less now.
It matters less in the sense of like, cause I think about people that I hang out with and I'm like, oh, they're about my age. And then I'll find out they're either 10 years older or 10 years younger. And I'm like, what? Like, how so.
I mean, like a 40-year-old and a 50-year-old dating does not bother me. A 30 and a 20. Moves a little bit for me.
I think so, because this is the difference.
Also, at 34, I was dating a 25-year-old.
Yeah, and I'm going to say...
She was more mature than I was, to be fair.
Yeah, and I think that's where, so 25 is the difference. I think probably 25 and later, I don't, like, literally, if a
had a great
25-year-old dated a 50-year-old, I don't have a problem with that.
Really, a 25 dating a 50?
Well, because it's their life. They're both grown. They're both grown.
So what you're saying is, I'm good for the rest of my life at this point, with no judgment.
Probably, yeah. Probably
You heard it here, folks.
And I say that, but again, it probably depends on the person. But the challenge with somebody when the difference between an 18 or a 19-year-old and a 25-year-old, there's a vast difference. And we don't think about it because it's just a few years. No, like there's a lot.
Well, the older Addison gets, the more I realize that. Like, she's 17 right now, and Addison's gorgeous. Like, she's beautiful, and it bothers me that, like, in 1 year, that men are going to be like, oh, she's 18.
Oh, she's 18. Yeah.
And I'm going to be like, this girl is still every bit, like, you should read our text messages. This girl is every bit of a 12-year-old as a 12-year-old has ever been.
That's right, yeah.
Like, she's, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, like,
that's
she's
why,
experiencing
like,
life
like
slowly, but, like, she's not ready for all that.
No, that's, again, and so that's why I say, like, an 18-year-old and a 25, there's a lot.
Huge difference.
And because if you look at, because there's somebody that I know that they're in a pretty bad situation. And, I was like, when did they start dating and da-da-da? And, people throw around grooming and things like that. But realistically, like, and it wasn't such a huge age gap at the time we thought anything about. But when you think about somebody that's 17, 18, dating somebody that's 25, they, let's say, they've already, been through college, or they've been through, they served 4 years in the Armed Guards, whatever, you go, that is a grown-up, that's a child. Yeah. That's the problem. Yeah. Now, a lot of guys will say, oh, they're more mature. This is the thing, is I always dated older guys because I seemed more mature. I looked more mature and all that. But emotionally or, like, socially, I was not more mature. It was an intellectual thing, not
Yeah, that's where I would say Addison's at, is intellectually, more mature, but... So, emotionally, like, absolutely not.
Yeah, and so I think that's that's part of the problem, is you've got to be on the same, like, it can't just be like, oh, because again, we think maturity, and we tend to think, like, do they, have a job and pay their own bills and da-da-da. That's different than, like, emotional and social skills and things to that effect. But I also think that one of the reasons that I probably dated older guys when I was younger is because they knew what was going on, and it made me feel better with somebody that already had been through stuff, right? But that's probably not the healthiest.
Yeah. So, but going back to the original point of this conversation is my belief that people should wait to get married. So just bars and real estate, like, that's the two things that I know the most about. I mean, I spent 10 years in bars, and I'm at 9 years in real estate at this point. And so dealt with a lot of people in life cycles. So I saw firsthand in the bars, these people who were married young, didn't go to bars, they went to church, had a few kids, boom, they hit 25, 30, things have started to change. The way they think has changed. They've grown apart. When in their discovery period of who they are, they realize, like, I don't like sleeping with my spouse. I don't like hanging out with my spouse. My spouse he was really good looking in high school. That hairline went backwards. All he does is drink beer and sit on the couch now, and he's really happy with his mediocre job and income, and I don't want that anymore. And so I noticed a lot of those things. And so these guys come to the bar, and they all say these things. They don't get me. We've grown apart. We've done all this. And I'm like, I feel like people should discover themselves before they commit themselves to someone. Personal opinion. In real estate, 20% of our clients are divorces. I mean,
but some of those,
and we have a lot of clients. That's a high number, guys.
Yeah. and I don't just, like, there are certain aspects of that I 100% agree with.
Yeah.
The challenge, I think also the challenge is when you're young, so I've got one brother that he's been married to the same, they dated when he was a senior and she was a junior in high school. As soon as she graduated, they got married. They have been married for years. I have, but with that said, I think he's the only one that has only been married, like, once. The rest of my brothers have been married 2-3 times. And some of them got married earlier and that didn't work out. And then the second time didn't work out, and some of them, so I do think that's something about it, but I also think you have to look at, and I think part of the challenge is looking at going, what are our values? Mm-hmm. When we're young, or at any point when we're getting married or dating somebody, are we looking at our values similar? So do we believe in the same things? And I don't mean like, yeah, I'm going to say values. Like, do we value the same thing?
I hear you. Like, hey, do we value hard work? Like, what is your socioeconomic standpoint on, like, stance on life? Where do you want to be in 30 years? And if those two things are polar opposites,
well, and I also do think, so like when I look at values too, like I think about, so my grandmother and grandfather, they got interesting that they got married after they got back from World War II. So she was older than him, like by a year. But
right.
Yeah. So she was like, I think 29 and he was 28, or 30 and 29 or something like that, 30 and 28. And so they got married later, and they were together until they passed away. But it was funny because when the kids were young, Papa was more of like, Mema obviously was a nurse when she was a nurse during War II. When the kids were young, I think she worked some, but he was primarily. And then whenever the kids got older, she went back to working full time. And I think this is where it matters. Like Papa, and this is funny because when you think about somebody like these days, people would say, oh, men back in the day didn't. Papa got up in the mornings. He was the one that ironed her outfit stuff. He did breakfast for the girls. He put them on the bus. Then he would go to school.
So was her love language acts of service?
I would imagine that it was.
Yeah.
And, but he's always been like there and the steady one. And, so I think that's where, like, when you look at the values, it wasn't, to me, it's not about like who's going to work and who's going to earn the money, or if both of you. Now that is a big thing, but are your values, like, I think they very much valued, like, we're gonna, this is what family means to us.
Yeah.
And it makes sense financially, like, for you to be the main breadwinner. He always worked, but
or creating an actionable plan for your life, and then revisiting that every year or two, and saying, hey, is this still what we agree to? Like,
that's right.
Are we going to spend our money this way? Are we going to save this way? Are we going to live this way? Are we going to work this way?
When the thing is, I know a lot of, like, that same situation. Like, let's say that it would have made more sense for her, like, when she went back to work, she would have went back to work, and then the person at home doesn't step up and is like, well, that's the woman's job, or that's the man's job. It doesn't matter which. But I'm like, no, like, I think the big part is, are we a team? Mm-hmm. Because if we're a team, we don't cheat on one another. If we're a team, we're going to talk about, hey, like, I don't like this or that or whatever, but, like, I'm not going to do something that's going to hurt my team. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes with marriage, if you're not careful, it becomes y'all are fighting with each other versus remembering that, hey, we're a team.
Yeah.
We're against them sometimes, but, like, we have to figure out, how do we be a team?
Yep. I heard something really interesting, and it had a big perspective shift for me. So again, my relationship life is right.
I just opt out nowadays.
Yeah, well, no, me too, because I know I'm not good at it. Like, I know I'm not good at it. Like, I'm the guy that's like, if I'm bad at something, I'd rather just not participate, And but I was introspectively, I was listening to something, I cannot remember what it was, but I was being very introspective in the moment, and I was thinking about how much I love Addison. And I was like, I would literally die for this girl. Like, my net worth, her freedom, her happiness, all those things are nothing without her. That's how much I love her. It is quite literally, I mean, it's a love that I've never experienced before. And biblically, your spouse is actually supposed to come before your kids. And I'm sitting here saying that I would give up anything for her, do whatever it took to make her happy, whatever. And I was like, wow, why do I feel like that about my baby girl? Yeah. But I cannot feel that same way about a woman that I say that I'm in love with.
Well, but I think,
and that's really, it's really hard for me, but it also has helped me understand that, like, until I'm willing to feel that same way about someone romantically, they're probably not the one.
Well, yes. And I'm a big thing. Like, I think love is spelt when you first meet somebody and you're like, oh, like that, all that stuff eventually goes away. Mm-hmm. To me, love's a choice. I'm going to choose to like you. And so,
golly, but why would you do that if you don't want to hang out with somebody?
No, because this is the thing is, we act like, and again, like both of us are up here talking about, like, we both single.
Two single people.
But to me, love is a choice. And whenever you are, and I think sometimes what happens with like with the significant other is we think we're supposed to like them all the time. I don't like myself all the time.
Probably like 90% of the time I have to talk myself into liking myself.
So I think that's the difference with, like, I think where people miss the boat, like with the spouses go, like, because I think everybody, I love to talk to people that have been married for years. Mm-hmm. And there's certain commonalities that I see. At some point in their marriage,
they're all cheating and they don't get caught.
No. But at some point, I think this is the difference. At some point in their marriage, they absolutely did not like the other person. Like, actively did not like them. Like, I don't want to go in the house and have to talk to that person about XYZ.
I have sat in my car in my driveway for hours not to go in my house before.
Well, so I've got, again, that is the difference, I think, between somebody that like makes it and then somebody that doesn't. And by the way, I don't think everybody should stay married. I'm not saying that you should. But I do think sometimes we got to stop back and go, like, is this a season that I'm going through, that person's going through? Are we still on the same team? Is it okay that sometimes we don't want to be with them, but what are we doing to look at it differently? Mm-hmm. Because I look at, when we talk about it being a choice, sometimes the reasons why it's a communication issue, it may not be the right person, may not be the right fit, but sometimes I think it's, forgetting that we're on the same team. Mm-hmm. So like and taking everything personally. Mm-hmm. So I'll hear this with like spouses. They'll say things like, let's say that, and again, I'm probably speaking more to the women than the men, and you're probably speaking more than men, but the woman, he'll get up, every day and, I have to pick his socks up or I have to, why don't? Well, the challenge becomes, if she starts thinking that he's doing that to her versus he's just a slob and y'all need to have a conversation and go, this is what works for me. This is what works for you. How do we get on the same page?
Yeah.
That's completely, that's the challenge. But when we make it mean something about us or what they're saying about us without having a conversation about that and like getting some clarity, I think that's where you have to, I think that's where it becomes it becomes really a challenge. So so I keep going back to like people that, again, I think some of the people that I know and I would say have like the best relationships and we always have to remember that there's no such thing as perfect. Correct. But they went sometimes years going, I don't like this person. And their family even saying like, you need to leave this person. Yeah. And then now they're in their 70s and they're like, I'm so glad I didn't. And what we see now.
You feel like that's a comfort thing?
No. Like, but the difference is
Addison better be there for me on my deathbed. Do you hear that, girl?
But I think the difference is what you also see is those people made some intentional choices and changes, both sides. Yeah. So, for instance, like this one, and I won't go into who because it's not, it's their story to tell.
I already know who you're about to say. Yeah. You love this story.
I did. But like it was, her family saying, hey, like you need to leave because like he went out to get cigarettes a week ago and he ain't been back.
My man.
Yeah. And so, but the difference is that behavior changed and he took care of the problems. And I think that's the difference is, are people willing to take care of the problem? And if they're not, now I think everybody takes care of that at different time periods and how long they're in it and that type of thing. But at some point you have to say like, yeah, this doesn't work. Yeah. And at the same time.
I'm so quick to say that though.
Yeah.
I'm so quick to say, this doesn't work for me anymore. I'm out.
Yeah. But you notice that you're not with your team members, you're not with your friends or anything else. Like I
was this week. That was one of the three. Yeah. I walked in a meeting absolutely ready to part ways and said things I should not have said and would not. I don't talk to people that way. I was hot.
Yeah. But this thing is, you said some things Y'all had a conversation.
I gave him a hug at the end of the conversation. We decided we were going to stay in business together.
Yes,
but
that's the difference.
Yeah.
You were willing to fight for it or release
quite
it.
literally, like blood surging through my veins. I was so hot.
I think we have to do the same thing with significant others. I do think, though, it goes back to our values the same. Do I like that person, or am I just attracted to that person? Because that's different. Because I don't care what somebody looks like when they are the hottest 20-year-old and the hottest 80-year-old. You look different at 80 than you did at 20. Even if you would be like other 80-year-olds, be like, that's the hottest 80-year-old.
Unless
your
you
body
Leonardo
looks different.
DiCaprio this thing.
Oh, but you notice none of his girlfriends go past 25.
I know, that's the whole point. You Leonardo DiCaprio this thing. 25, severance pay. See ya.
Yeah.
I don't have Leo money, though, so it's not going to work for me.
Well, but also, like, it gets sadder and sadder the older he gets.
Is it sad? Is it sad?
Yeah.
Is it sad?
From my perspective, yes.
From my perspective.
Because now he's just the creepy old dude.
He's not that old.
He's older than me. He's in his 50s.
Hey, Siri, how old is Leonardo DiCaprio?
Leonardo DiCaprio is 49 years old.
49. Dude's rocking it.
If she's 25. If she's 20, that's gross.
I think she's 19 right now.
Yeah, that's gross. That's Addison dating Leonardo, a 49-year-old.
Fuck away from Addison,
That's right.
you pedo.
So, like, no, that's at some point you go, that's just gross. Like, but you're not growing with that person. You don't have somebody that is, like, again, this is, so I think about my family and look, we sometimes argue, we sometimes fight, but I know that no matter what, matter of fact, I've been to some trips where places where probably shouldn't have been, like outside of the country and I know, like, if I got in trouble there, my family would figure out how to go get me.
Yeah.
And they would never stop until they got me. Like, that's part of what I think I'm looking for. Like, if I were to, like, in a relationship, is I want that person that, like, they're my person. But I also look at it and I go,
That feels so fairy tale-ish. Like, I don't know that exists.
well, no, but so I think it's what's the definition of my person. So, like, I also think about, like, being single. Like, I also have, like, a handful of, like, really, like, close friends.
Yeah.
And probably less than a handful. Like, I like people, but, like,
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 that I could call to bury a body.
Yeah.
For sure. And I know they wouldn't snitch.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and they would have had the conversation with me before I needed to bury the body, to be like, girl, you need to get your shit together. But also,
One of those people would help me kill the person. For sure.
but we don't, and this is the funny thing is, like, I think of, like, Mandy, I would say, like, she's, like, my person. We don't talk all the time.
Yeah.
But when we talk, it's like we've never not talked. But I also think about, I was talking to her this the other day, and I think that's the difference between me, like, being single or in a relationship, is people that I'm friends with, they came and got me. And I even think about the guys that I ever dated, like, they came and got me. What I mean by that, like, we're friends because when I first met her, they were all going somewhere, and she was like, hey, she didn't ask, she was like, hey, we're all going to so-and-so. I know you're at Joy's house. We're going to swing by and pick you up. And
We should have asked you'd have bowed out.
oh yeah, because, like, and so we talk about that, like, the text message when I'm like, are you just telling me y'all are hanging out, or are you inviting me? Like, I don't always know. And so, but that's what I mean by, like, my person is, I don't think, and there have been times where we've gotten disagreements, or I didn't agree with what she did and she didn't. But I think there's a difference, and I think about that with, like, my family. There's absolutely times where I do not agree with what my brothers are doing at all. And I'm pretty vocal about it, and vice versa. But it's always, it's not from a place of, like, attacking. It's like, look, I know, that you're headed to a place of that you're not going to enjoy. How about we, and so I think that's that, your person is going to, it's not about, I don't know. To me, I think it's always about respecting, not necessarily liking all the time.
I will agree with that. And if I don't like you, I don't want you in my house.
Yeah. Now, that's also, that's the other thing is I also have to, I don't want to be around people all the time.
Me either. If I were to be married again, I would probably want to have separate bedrooms. Seriously. Like, I know that sounds weird. I'm even good with different houses. I'm absolutely okay with that. I know there's a client that I've served. He's a great guy. He's a nice guy, but he's very quirky. He's just got his own belief system and his own thing, and he's a moral, nice guy. He's not doing anything wrong. He just thinks differently than we do. And he has a girlfriend. He lives in a very nice house just right down the road from me. And he lives a little bit further down the road. And they've been dating for years. But they have separate houses. Yeah. And I think it's for I've never asked.
Yeah.
But if I was curious, I'm like, I've been dating for a long time. Like, what's the deal? But I think it's very similar to what I have going on. It's like, I like my space. I like things to march to my beat, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that, and that's one of the things too, like, I agree with you, but I also think that's why some people get married and then divorced, or it's always funny to me, like when people are like, I know more people that ended up getting divorced or breaking up because it's like they don't make conscious decisions. They just fall into things like, oh, you were there, so okay, it seems like we should get married now. Oh, you were there, like the lease is up, we should just move in together. You're over here all the time. And I'm like, no, y'all are not consciously making any decisions. That's
moving in together changes things. Well, even if you spend the night with each other all the time.
No, yeah, that's right. Well, and so you have to
Your toothbrush has to be next to their toothbrush. That's a big decision.
Yeah. Well, and also, so like everybody that knows me knows, like, I love having people over. But I also know, like, I'm a bigger fan of having, like, Saturdays, I want to have people over because even when I enjoy everybody, like, I have so much fun, my people energy, like, comes down. Yeah. And if I don't have time to recuperate, then it would be really hard for me to be who I needed to be on Monday when it was time to go to work. Now, with that said, I also am like, no, you can stay at my house the entire weekend, but there may be a time, because I like people at my house, but there may be a time where you might not see me.
I'm locked up in my
bedroom. I need you to understand that it has nothing to do with you. I'm just recharging my battery. And so I think too, like, but when you just slide into things, you're not having those conversations. And so you think when that person's like having their alone time that it's about you. And I'm like, no, like, I have to recoup. I have to recharge my battery. So I think that's where the challenge, no matter what, any age, if you're not somebody that's willing to talk and say, this is what I need. What do you need? Let's come up to something that works for both of us.
It links.
If you fall into stuff, it ain't.
It links back into that plan conversation that I said earlier. Like, what do we want out of this life? How are we going to react when we don't like each other? How are we going to spend our money? How are we going to save? How are we going to work? Who's going to take care of the kids? What schools will they go to? Where are our housing decisions going to be like? We need to agree on these things, and then it doesn't have to be set in stone forever.
No,
but can we agree that every 2 years we come back to this list and we go, has anything changed about us?
Probably more than that, but it's so the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of my biggest, it's begin with the end in mind. So because this is so like, I think people that get divorced. Now, again, my parents were married for 22 years before they got divorced. They absolutely needed to get a divorce. With that said, I think sometimes if you begin with the end in mind and you go, okay, what do I want my kids' world to look like when they're 18, 25, 40? I think sometimes people are too quick to go, maybe get a divorce and not thinking like, or get married without thinking about the end in mind, because a lot of times people are like, well, we just have to have different Christmases or whatever till they're 18. No, you get that. What's it going to be like for them when they get married, when they have babies, when they have Christmas and all this stuff? So I think you have to go like end in mind. What do we want our world to look like? And it may not, like when you're 20, what you think you want your 80s to look like is different.
Oh yeah. Mine's changed entirely.
Oh yeah. But the feeling or what you value may not have.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's also thinking that sometimes we think that it's going to look a certain way and we get so committed to how it looks versus what is it like? It might look different, but this is the feeling that we're going for. This is what we want people to experience and things to that effect. So I know we went way sideways with what we were going to talk about today.
But I mean, divorce does kind of lead into the next topic though.
Yep. Yeah.
So before me and Olivia got started, she was like, hey, is there anything specific or are we just rolling today? And I said, no, there has been a topic that's kind of been on my heart lately. And it is discovering how you want to invest in people in your world and in your organization. And that's been a really heavy topic on me lately, because if you don't work with me directly, and you have not, if you went into my organization for 6 months and you're like, this blah, 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 and then you leave like, yeah, no, we didn't invest in you. It didn't happen. You didn't contribute. You can't expect me to give you interest on deposits that you're not willing to make into the vision, if that makes sense. So, but people who have been with me for a long time, I care about their net worth. I care about their quality of living. I actually had a conversation that kind of broke my heart. Somebody who has been with me for quite some time, I called and we had to talk about a few things that were happening day to day, and I needed a correct course. Nothing bad, just tune-up conversation. And this person loves me dearly.
Well, that's my thing, is you should always be having tune-up conversations.
Yeah. I agree.
We've literally been working together since February. Mm-hmm. We've had multiple. Mm-hmm. That should be an ongoing
But
thing.
I also call you as a consultant, like whenever I'm having like a big, deep internal issue, like I call you and allow you to like coach me with all the details. Like you get all the details, from financial to good or bad or ugly, right? And so that's a different relationship than you and I have. But I do agree that you should stay in contact with your people, especially the ones that you're directly responsible for. Every leader should be talking to the people they're responsible for weekly. Mm-hmm. And so they said something to me. I'm trying to keep all pronouns out. They said something to me, and they said, yes, I'm making a living. Yes, I'm doing better than I was. And I'm paying my bills and I'm living a nice lifestyle, but I'm this age and I've got nothing put back. Mm-hmm. And I immediately went, wow, that sucks. Like, this person works their ass off for me. And I never asked the question, like, what's retirement look like for you? And now I feel bad, because this person's been with me for a long time, and they're important to me. They're massively important to me. They're important to the success of the organization. They're important to me because I know they're a team player. They're important to me because we talked about that piggy bank. Like, if you don't put deposits in, how can you dare expect interest, right? This person has just made deposit after deposit after deposit after deposit, and shame on me for not going, well, what kind of interest am I giving them? Mm-hmm. And I thought about that, and I was like, we need a new deal. And so I'm working on that, and I made them a new deal, and I'm going to make a new deal for people in their position, because I don't feel like for the amount of work they put in and the amount of contribution, I don't feel like they're fairly compensated anymore. I think their front-end compensation is fair. I don't think their back-end compensation is fair. And so we're going to work on that, and I'm going to present that to that group. So me and you need to talk about that, because it needs to be an SOPs. The next was... there is someone who I have really, 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 really helped out in life, and they're doing really well. And that person couldn't give a shit less about my net worth, about how much money I make, about my general level of happiness. In fact, I don't think they like seeing me win a whole lot, honestly, which is heartbreaking. And I started looking through my org chart, and I started looking through the relationships, people who are no longer in my life that I fired out of my life. I didn't even promote them to friend. I promoted them to, I blocked you from everything. You can't even get in touch with me, And I said, some of the people, like I'm putting them in this category on how much money they're making, what they made before me, what they made after me, what they're making with me. And I started looking, and I said, some of the people that I do the most for are the least invested in my net worth. And some of the people that I've done the least for just want to see me win. Mm-hmm. And I said, man, it is a very unfair level of compensation on some people that I'm partnered with. And I'm making decisions moving forward that people who don't give a flying about my net worth, I don't think I'm going to spend much more time with them. And, somebody said something to me the other day. Somebody basically said that the deal that I had offered was not good enough for them. And I was like, geez, I wish somebody would offer me that deal. Like, because no one offered me. To be clear, no one else funded this whole thing. Like, I did. I'm not going to say I did it on my own, because I had your brother, I had you, people who were coaching me and encouraging me along the way, but no one wrote me a check. No one gave me anything. And I'm over here like giving out portions of businesses. I'm trying to help people's income, right? And they said that. And then the next person, we had a conversation about something that I needed done, and I needed it done at this price. I said, hey, I'm going to compensate everybody fairly, but on this deal, I need this price for this deal, period. And they said, it's going to happen and you don't have to pay me. And I said, no. If you work, I'm going to pay you. I'm going to pay you $100 an hour for this deal. You're only going to have 2 hours in, so I'm just going to slide you a few hundos and life's going to be good, right? And they went, no, I don't think you understand. Harrison, I get at a very high level that the more money you make, the more opportunity I have. So you tell me what you need and we're going to make this thing happen at whatever price you need it to happen at. And I literally started crying mid-phone call, got off the phone because I didn't want them to hear me crying. And I went, I'm over here giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to people who do not care about my net worth. And this person who does not make anywhere near that said they'll do anything at any price because he knows that the more money I make is the more opportunity and the more money that he'll make. And now I have a clear answer on who to invest in, how to invest in them, and what my return will be because they care about my return. And that is a mind for me as a leader. I know that some people look at my life and say must be nice, but they haven't been here for the last 9 years, eating working 80 to 100 hours a week, losing relationships, losing sleep, not getting to see your kids, not having good healthy relationships, not seeing your family, not going out on the weekends with your friends. And some people do see it, they acknowledge it, and they go, without you doing what you did, there is no me here, and I'm very thankful for that. Anyway, that's the start of this conversation.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, I do think it goes back to what we were talking about with clear expectations and the end in mind. Some people are with you for a season. Some people are your people forever. I don't know that makes one bad or good. It's just different pieces. I do think that
feels like one group is used as a means to an end and the other are life partners.
It depends.
Like, fun fact, I want to make everybody my life partner.
Well, but
like I want to get with everybody and go, hey, what's your skill? How do we make this work that both of us in this winning big?
Yeah, they may but it goes back to, and again, I know, and part of the reason I'm going back to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, because it's, to me, I like, there's a system or a model, and if we can go back to the thing that wins, it makes it simpler. And, there are people that have gone before us. How can we learn from that? And when we look at, the reason I say a season or a forever, I think there are people that I'm going to be in business with for a season, and we're both won through that. And there are going to be people that I'm partners with forever, and we both went through that. So I think it goes back to, because let's say that there's somebody right now in your world that is all about you winning, and you're all about them winning. But for now, that works. But eventually, they want to be an actor in Hollywood. When they go and do that, that doesn't make what y'all grew together any less. That was just part of their growth trajectory.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. That part actually doesn't bother me. When someone calls me and says, hey, Harrison, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I think I'm actually just in the wrong field in life. It's been great, but I really feel like I'm called to do X, right? And they go do X, and I'm like, you go from selling real estate to juggling professionally? You're just in the wrong place. I can't help you there, right? That doesn't offend me. It's when people do want to be where they're at, but I help them win. I help them get where they wanted to go. And now the only thing that's important is how much they can juice out of our relationship rather than us winning together like we always have.
Yeah, now to me, that is 100%, because now it's not a win-win. Now it's about, because to me, a win-win means we're in a cooperative arena. And it's a frame of mind and heart that constantly seeks mutual benefit from our relationship, right? And not just mutual benefit from like financial or anything else, but I care about who you are. And I expect you to care about who I am. And so I think that's a huge piece. And I 100% know that sometimes we don't have the conversations that we need to have, or we think that it's a win-win. We think we're on the same journey because we feel like we're winning together. But sometimes, as we've talked about this before, you're winning, you're losing so slowly, you don't realize you're not winning. And so I think sometimes you are in a relationship where you feel like one thing and they feel like the other, and somehow in there you get so far divided that it really is, it's the, you thought y'all were winning together. They think that you're not a part of what they built almost.
There has to be a measurable metric there to say whether you're winning or not. I look at the numbers.
Well, so it depends. That's where you got to have to start at the end of mine. Because if you and I have a conversation, we go, look, this is what winning looks like for me. And you're looking at the numbers and you're saying, Olivia, you're making more, you're da-da-da. But let's say that, I want to make good money, but I want to be able to,
well, you got to speak their love language, whatever that is. Some people is
and go, how do we mesh?
I want to work 40 hours a week and make X so that I can provide this lifestyle for my family versus, somebody. I'm like, well, dude, you're making $250,000 a year. Like, what else do you want? And they're like, but I'm working at 80 hours a week for that. Like, I wanted to make $200,000 at 40 hours a week. I'm not hitting my goal.
Yeah.
Right. No, I completely get that portion. I'm saying when all the things measure up and the only thing they care about is what the complacency and familiarity are the two words that come to mind that lead to these feelings. Because, and this was part of the issue. Remember when I said earlier that I had a hard conversation with somebody. I was absolutely ready to part ways. And it is my personal belief that it's familiarity and complacency. My first question was, how much money did you make before you came in this organization? And they said the number. And I said, how much is it now? It's about 10x. Well, they joined, I think they've been 4 years now. And so the number is about 10x on their income. And I said, has it grown year over year? Have you had a dip in any year regardless of market? I already knew the answer. And they said, no. I said, what helped me and you get there? And they're like, well, the way we do things. I said, the system. The system works as long as everybody feeds it and everybody's bought into it. But the moment you start breaking system and you start thinking about you more than the system can no longer serve you. If you will not serve the system cannot serve you. And it is, in my experience, because I have helped, just like you have, I've helped at least 5 people make $200,000+. I've helped about a year. I've helped somewhere in between. I'm only thinking about one company there. If you think about all my companies, like it's much larger number. But the amount of people I've helped make 6 figures, that number is 20 to 30. I would love for that number to be hundreds one day. But it's never good enough later because everybody raises their standard of living. Everybody raises what they do with their incomes and spends their money differently. And it is never enough. I could pay you $1 million a year in 5 years. You know what you would tell me? Okay, Harrison, I've been making $5 million a year for 5 years, and I just feel like my work and my efforts have, I should be making more. My life should look differently.
If you're not always having the conversations that need to be had.
Yeah.
Just like they may end up with complacency, it can happen on your end too. Because we're rocking along thinking, oh, everything's happy, everybody's making money. But are we having the conversations that nurture the relationship? Are we in tune with what's happening with their world? Are we waiting until we're so far apart to have the come to Jesus talk, or is it always there? I think that's the other challenge that when let's say I feel like I'm waiting with you. But I'm not checked in enough, or I'm not asking questions, or I'm not seeing what you feel like, and do you feel like our contribution is where it needs to be? Then it can go so far that we can't, that gap has bridged so far. The other piece is I also look at it. So like I'm somebody that got into business with family at a very young age. And there were times where I did not it's to me, it was almost like most teenagers go through this, where like your parents, let's say you have great parents, and but at some point you think that they're idiots, and you have to like go through this metamorphosis to come back later and go, oh, mom, dad, you were right, that was smart, I can't. There were times with growing up in a family business that I forgot that I had opportunities because of what the blood, sweat, and tears that they had put in. And so I think that's some of it too, is people go through. So I think you've seen Ted Lasso. If you haven't seen Ted Lasso, you should, but there's a story arc with Nate. He gets Nate lots of attention. Nate becomes somebody that he never thought that he could be. And then Nate
turns his back on him.
He does. So so to me though, when I look at that, what I legit saw was myself, unfortunately. Now, thankfully I never went as far as Nate did in that, but you start seeing like a lot of times it's a teenager becoming an adult. And so you almost have to press back against that person. But that was my play. I created that, but Ted gets the credit for it, right? But he's not mature enough to understand that we all won with that, right? It was just like, wait a minute, but I did X, Y, Z. And in that, if one of the things that I felt that I loved that storyline so well was when he does come back, because he gets mean and spiteful and hurtful. He started hanging out with people that's how they live their world. Yeah. But he was trying to find out who he is. And in that, he hurt a lot of people that helped him get to where he was. Yeah. But he couldn't see it because he was trying so hard to be his own person. And then he grew through that, and then he came back around. And so I think Ted having to let him go through that. Now, could Ted have I don't think it's all on Ted by any means. I think that was a process of Nate going through that. But I do think it's what parents, if they're not careful, and I say parents, but relationships are all together. So let's say that in a parent relationship, you've got a teenager that they live, eat, and breathe, and they got to drive the fancy cars because of the work you put in it. But they go through this, it's almost like the cocoon and the butterfly. They've got to break out of that cocoon, so they make the parent wrong. They, and the parent starts feeling, you don't appreciate nothing. Well, the challenge is when they're going through that, the parents that fight back and say, you don't, blah, blah, those become the people that they don't have relationships with their kids when they're, 30 or 40, because they couldn't see that that's just a process that person had to go through to break through the cocoon. And so they didn't make them wrong. Now, I don't think you should be somebody should walk over you either. But so how do you go, is this part of that person's growth process? Because I think about that with my brothers. I got to be I came to the KW because Chuck and Avery made that decision. I was not even a year into real estate at that point. I didn't know what anything was. I got the opportunity to start coaching because of that. They took me places. And there was a time that I got very mad, not mad, but everybody just thought that I'd got this because of Chuck. No, did he absolutely put me in places that gave me a step up that I wouldn't have had without him.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
But life is who you know, though.
Right. But there was a part of that I was trying to become an individual that if he would have pressed back and would have just been if he didn't understand that and he would have just been oh my God, you're just an ungrateful little snot. I couldn't have grown through that and then come back and go, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And now I coach him. That's the cool part. But he had the forethought to go so it may not be in the relationship or the thing that you're talking about. But I think that sometimes we have to look and go, okay, is what we're feeling of a lack of appreciation just them trying to break through that cocoon to become their next person that we can do even greater things together. How do we approach that? Now, again, I don't mean be a doormat or anything else, but I do think we have to look at that whole piece and see where they are in part of their growth, because what might feel like lack of respect or I don't care about how much you make literally could be, they're just breaking through their cocoon, and it's really uncomfortable for them and unfortunately people around them that love them. And so, but that could be the very first person that comes back, and it's the your biggest growth opportunity down the road.
And it's not just one person. Like, I seriously, I went down the list and went like, okay, like where do they start? Where are they now? Are we hitting the goals? The answer is yes. And then it's like, I just feel like everything is a play on how do you capitalize while I do not. And it's even a point of like a portion of me is curious. Like, not only do I know they don't care about my net worth, are they rooting against me?
Now, well, so again,
that's a big curiosity for a few.
Yeah. Well, and that's the interesting thing. They could.
Yeah.
Just like legit. And again, about Ted Lasso, because that just exacerbates it. But he was actively rooting against Ted.
Like actively trying to kill them. Not kill him, but
I mean, like he
murder
was,
his career.
He was being at just the biggest, right? So was he handling it all wrong? Absolutely. Could he see that because he had right?
Yeah, they're not in the moment.
But what did Ted do?
He's just the best version of himself at all
Ted
times.
stayed true to himself, and that allowed
Ted's a better man than me.
Yeah. Well, and with that said, because again, they wrote the script, right?
Yeah.
But I do think that's where we go back to the end in mind and understanding people and the process that they go through, versus just looking at it from this window. So it may be a great exercise for you and I to get together on some people, and not from a place of, I'm not even like, you might be 100% accurate in all of this. And yet looking at it from a different perspective, just to make sure that we're not missing something, that's not part of their growing away, that they're, battling through that cocoon and you're going through all this other stuff. And unfortunately, sometimes when we're going through that, we feel like somebody has to lose so we can win. And it's just immaturity.
Yeah.
But again, I can say that because I'm somebody that went through that. Now, thankfully, hopefully nobody saw that, but us.
Yeah.
But I think about too, like even when I was a teenager, I'm pretty sure like my mom is a much better woman than me, because I would have punched me in the face several times. I would have beat me, but she knew that was a process that I had to go through to become an independent person. And so she didn't, remember we did that exercise where if you press, she never pressed back. So I couldn't quite be mad enough at her. I couldn't quite push her away because she wasn't resisting. And I also know that if she would have resisted, I'm telling you, my life would be in a different place. I would have been 14 to 16 on drugs, pregnant, all this other stuff, because you ain't gonna tell me I can't.
Like, you would have just ultimately rebelled.
So bad.
And that's typically at first, especially with the few that I felt resistance from, like I was constantly resisting back. And then me and you did that exercise and we talked and I said, you know what, I am going to just back off, like just back off entirely. And so it's been okay. But no, I guess more specifically, I'm talking about the advancement, like, because we're growing. Like, everybody out here doesn't know this, but I've bought 2 or 3 businesses this year. I'm beginning to I just negotiated one. We start tomorrow. I need to make a phone call. There's another person called me and was like, hey, you buy businesses, right? I was like, yep. And he's like, let me put some out in front of you. This is what I own. This is what I'd like to do with it. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'll tell you what. I said, I've got this one acquisition going. I've got to get the R2 finish. See, it's not the alcohol. It's just me. And so I got to finish the R2 building up because that's draining my bank account daily. Thanks, contractor.
Well, and I really need an office to land in. I need you to hurry up and finish it.
It's almost done. Okay. So appraiser's coming this week.
Good.
Yeah, Joey's working night and day. And he's got a 4-man crew during the day, a 3-man crew at night, trying to get it cleaned up with the appraiser. Yeah. Because I need my money back.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I have really big acquisitions, big for me. Okay. Like somebody is watching this and like, poor guy. I'm doing my best. but and so another, acquisition, and I'm like, all right, so who are my who's? Like, who am I going to offer partnership for these events? And that list of people that I feel like don't care about my net worth, if I'm being honest, my mindset's going to change about them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and actually, this is the thing. That's where I said, like, you have to look at the overall. Not everybody is the right person for now. Mm-hmm. So, for instance, they might be amazing and continue doing the thing that they're doing. Mm-hmm. Just because you have somebody in your organization and they're doing amazing for them and what they're looking for, that may not be the best person, like, to partner over here. So that's where you have to have those different conversations, because they need to get through this to go through that. So it might be some of those same people that you're expressing that about, they're going to go through this metamorphosis, and it may be a year, 6 months, 10 years, and they may actually be the best partner you'll ever have later. Mm-hmm. But right now may set y'all both up for failure. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's my point. I need to let them go and do their own thing, because they are under the impression they're in competition with me rather than in partnership with me. And
again, that might be because again, like and I know, like, not to I just put it this with me, but like, I've been through that where there were, like, again, we'll take me and Avery. Mm-hmm. We were partners, mm-hmm. and then it makes sense. So, like, his son was like, "Why'd you fire my daddy?" I was like, we didn't really, but it did make sense. So he needed to grow and do this in that world, even though he was much more experienced with me than in other things. And then it was like 2 years later, we came back. We had learned a lot. We redid things and had an amazing experience in there. But we were different people when we came back to that. Now, throughout all that, we were very, like, literally the day I fired, he might have really fired, but it just didn't make sense. We had this conversation. Mm-hmm. Like, we went and ate together the next day. Yeah. We were still in each other's lives. It just didn't make sense for this part of our world. And eventually it did. Yeah. So I think that may be, it's keep going back to, it's not it doesn't have to be an all or nothing thinking. Yeah. It could just be like, for now, who's the best fit for this?
No, look, I don't hate, to be clear, I don't hate any of these people. I actually love them all. Like, I really do. I don't want even to get out of business with them. But it is like, who do you, when you look at your organization and you go, who has earned this? And in my head, the first qualification before everything else is, does this person care about my network?
Oh, yeah, that has to be. Yeah. Well, do they care about me? Yeah. So, for instance, like, I was even and obviously part of that is your net worth, but even when they care about me. So I was watching this thing, and there was this gentleman talking about, he said it was during COVID, mm-hmm. and he was downstairs, and he was super excited because he had got a speaking engagement that he wanted. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, he was so worked out. He was just stressing, and he couldn't even handle the stuff that he was already doing. And his wife heard him celebrating. She's like, "What are you celebrating?" He's like, "Oh, I got this thing." And she said, because she knew he was already in a place of pain, mm-hmm. he wasn't showing up the way that he wanted to in his businesses, with his family, or anything else. And she said, this is how much this was my expectations of our world. Mm-hmm. This is how much I love you. She said, I want you to understand, like, my pies are filled. Mm-hmm. Anything you do after this, it's about your ego. And it's not, you cannot say that this is because you're doing this for your family. She's like, we're good. We've got enough. And interesting enough, some people heard that and they're like, well, you should never, knock somebody down. I said, but no, that's not what she did. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, what she said,
in their plan.
It wasn't in their plan, but she could see how stressed and worried, but he had got to the point where it was like, push, do, for no actual reason. He didn't even feel like he was winning anymore. Mm-hmm. He just was like, that was on that trajectory. So I think that's the other piece is looking at that and going, like, you have to have somebody that's committed enough to you to go, look, are you doing this because of growth and you're excited and you're happy and it's for your someday goals? Mm-hmm. Let's make it happen. Are you doing this, but your health is terrible? You're mad at everybody. Like, your world is terrible. then this may not be the best for you. So you've got to have that person. So yes, net worth I think is huge, but just like what you noticed with the person that were like, they didn't have the retirement, doesn't matter if they have lots of money right now, but they don't have retirement, right? So I think that's where so yes, it's somebody that cares about your net worth because they got to care about your retirement. They got to care about you. But I think it's more about like, I care too much about you not to say what you need to hear sometimes when you need to hear it.
Yeah.
And part of that is your net worth.
Yeah.
I just want to make, that's a bigger piece, I think.
It's not unfair. I was just specifically thinking about net worth.
I know.
Because a lot of the issues are actually surrounding money. I think that some people do see how I live, which I live. I'm a blessed person. I'm not going to deny that. And they want the fast track to that. And that doesn't exist. And just to be clear, like, this is all an illusion. It could go away tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Yeah. And when I think that everybody wants the fast track. Like there's nothing inherently wrong
unless
with
you
that.
win the lotto or your
But even
parents.
then, if you're not careful, you win the lottery, you got the fast track for 7 years and then it goes away because you didn't take care of it.
What's the statistic on people who win the lottery filing bankruptcy or being bankrupt?
4 to 7 years, I think is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a staggeringly large statistic.
Yeah, and like living with your homeless. It's not like, oh, I'm back to where I was.
Yeah, like from millionaire to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's because of this. Do you know how many financial lessons I've learned through this process? If you would have 9 years ago when I started this business handed me $10 million, I don't know that I would have made the same decisions I'd make today. If you handed me $10 million today, you'll have $20 million in about 2 years.
Yeah.
Because I now know how to invest it, how to make decisions. I know how to manage debt. I understand what programs are available to me inside that debt and how to work the banking system to my advantage to make money. I didn't know that 10 years ago.
No.
And so when you hand someone a fast track, they oftentimes fail because they're not prepared for everything that comes with it.
That's the other piece. Not only they're not prepared, but that's where you have like that cocoon to butterfly. If you guys have all heard this, but like if you help a caterpillar by going, oh, I'm going to pull back this,
they die. Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Like there has to be enough challenge for you to for them to emerge a butterfly. And so I do think that we give somebody, we do a disservice with somebody when we take away
their need to evolve.
And any challenges. So we've had this conversation before about your daughter with Addison, right? You're like, sometimes am I spoiling her because I'm giving her too much stuff? I don't think it's necessarily about stuff, by the way, but it's because I agree. Like my brothers, they were working on roofs from like 12, 13, 14. Nobody should be roofing at 14. Like, no.
Pretty sure it's illegal today.
Probably illegal, but nobody should have to do that. I had a job when I was in 8th grade, but it was like I picked stalls and I washed walls. It wasn't like, I remember whenever I moved out when I was 17, my mom got remarried. I wasn't a fan and I moved out on my own. And it was so funny because I thought, and very much people that had not had those challenges. And even though I always had a job and I had those challenges, they're at a different level, right? So when I moved out, it was very much, well, she's not doing anything for me anyways. I pay my own insurance. I pay my own gas. I buy my own clothes. Yeah, I forgot about lights, water, rent. So
that TV that entertains you at night.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing. Mama didn't want me to move out. We had conversations, but do what you need to do. With that said, she let me feel the pain. How a lot of parents would not have let me do it. They would have pushed back and be like, no, get your ass back in this house. Blah, 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 right. The challenge is that I would have never appreciated it. So like I moved out. I slept on a kindergarten. The only reason we had a nice place to stay. You slept on a kindergarten mat. Yeah, that was the only bed I had. Thankfully, we had a TV, but it's because my dad years earlier had given me like a TV. We had antenna ears. Yeah. The only reason that TVs did not look the same back then. And we called it the boob tube because it was bubbled. And my brother, the one that's older than me, but 2.5 years. So his friend rented us a trailer. It was really nice double wide. So we had this really nice double wide and a nice little thing. But we slept on kindergarten mats. I was a senior in high school. I did not, I played softball, but like I didn't have extra money. I actually had to have a, you know, like I went from like working at Coffee Cafe because like I was supposed to have a job. I'm in high school to like, oh, I need to figure out how to pay stuff.
Yeah.
The only reason I ate during that time period was because I worked at Coffee Cafe and Suzanne, who ran the place, would like let us eat there. And so, but I could later appreciate and understand because my mama let me get my Knox. Now, this is the thing is she didn't let me get my Knox and was just an asshole. Like I remember her coming over one time and like bring in food so that I could eat, right? So it was never, but she let me take my Knox too because you could not have convinced me at 17 that I didn't, you know, like I don't need you. Oh, so you have to let somebody take their Knox. I think we got to make sure that we don't make everything so easy that they don't see that.
Life can't be a padded room.
No.
Yeah. You got to skin your knee every now and then.
And people's got to let you. My favorite, I loved this, somebody was talking about like little kids. They were playing basketball, a little boy. Now, he didn't get hurt where he to the hospital or anything, but like he, you know, maybe bloodied his lip or whatever, and he was crying. And they were playing, and the grown-up, I thought, did a really great thing. They said, hey, look, we're going to keep playing. You are hurt, or, you know, or you're injured. You know, you're hurt, but you're not injured. So you can go over there, feel better, come back and join us, or you can cry. But like we're not going to stop what we're doing. And the little boy learned a great lesson there. You know, took care of him. You know, they made sure he was okay, but then he came back and he enjoyed himself. A lot of times we're not careful. We just go, oh, you're hurt, run you into the house, waddle you up, and they don't know how to come back. So I think that grown-ups and kids, we all think that we're grown-ups, but so many ways, like, every time we do a new experience or new something, we're still a kid. We got to learn how. We got to make sure that we can hit those walls. And most of us have to learn our lesson multiple times because I remember moved to Texas. You think sleeping on kindergarten mats were bad? I remember being so broke at one point that my electricity got turned off. And I had 2-3 jobs at the time. It wasn't like I wasn't working. And I was just me, but I also was not spending my money correctly. But I was too embarrassed and too prideful to tell anybody that was happening. So I'm not even sure if my family knows. This may be the first time they're hearing the story. So I didn't have electricity. So I would go to the truck stop to take a shower. And because I knew like that was until I could get my electricity turned back on.
I said earlier I had been broke. I have never been that broke.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like that's only one of the so like when I first like I literally like I remember, you know, people talking about you can't lose weight on like pasta. I'm like, if you eat ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because the package was 10 cents at the time, yeah, you can lose weight on pasta. Like I remember when I worked at Kids Are Kids, like again, I was in my early 20s, but we would legit, like I was so excited because on payday, I could go to Taco Bell and I would get me a bean burrito because it was like $1. It was 95 cents. I could get sour cream that day. It was $1.15.
Taco Bell bean burritos be hitting different. Those things are good.
Yeah. But so we all are different. But the cool part though, a lot of that was more about my pride.
I'm learning that it's a lot more about pride and ego. And feeling that instead, like I said it earlier, you're in competition rather than being in partnership.
Yeah.
Olivia, it's 12. I'm dying. A, I have to pee. B, I really need to get out of this chair. So then let's wrap up here. So we've talked a lot about a lot of things today. We have.
What if you had like a parting thought for today or something that you were going to share with somebody that is on their road of, you know, up and coming? They want to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. What is the advice that you would give them? And then you can go.
Thanks, teacher. I can go. That's awesome. And strangely, we didn't mean for these topics to correlate whatsoever. We didn't even mean to have that middle topic.
Yeah.
That happened. we talked about in the marriage thing, having a conversation about how do we want to spend money? How do we want this to look? Begin with the end in mind. What is the end result that we desire? And it actually very much so correlates into the people that you want to invest in your organization. And I don't want to be in competition with people in some organization. No, I want to look at them and go, hey, we don't have to fight each other.
Iron sharpens
We
iron.
quite
Competition,
literally
but
both
not-
get to win here.
Yeah.
And because we both get to win, we can put our resources together, we put our time together, we put our knowledge together, we can go win more than other people can win by themselves.
Yeah.
A large amount of very wealthy people are starting to realize that teaming up is the way to go.
Oh yeah.
Being that solopreneur, you're going to get lapped.
Well, so I think sometimes we think that, and I'll say this and then we'll wrap. Like, I think that's the solopreneur, because it's not real. We look at things and we go, oh, Gary Keller has partners in every. He said he thinks he only has one thing that he doesn't have a partner in, but he started Keller Williams with a partner, Williams, right?
He also bought the dude out.
Yeah, but he still owns a piece of it.
Does he?
Oh,
I didn't realize that. I thought he was out.
No, like he bought him out, but he has
Like maybe like a profit share stake in there,
yeah.
where he gets some money, but he has no votes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there, and I do think
I've got a partner in every business except for THLT.
Yeah. I think that's the thing, that we have this belief that I'm like, no, like Ben Kenny and Place, it's him and Chris Flores. Like,
And then I think they bought Adam Hergenrother in with the Lillian. Yeah.
So like that's the so don't now be careful about who you partner with,
Very
you
much
gotta
so.
have
That's a whole other episode.
that's a whole other episode. But
I can't stay here for another 2 hours. I'll peel myself.
So that's it.
That's it. That's my
Peace out.
Yeah. Peace out, Girl Scout. Sucks again. Let's go. That was better.